In the immediate aftermath of World War II, the British Indian Army underwent a massive demobilization. Practically overnight, 1.25 million wartime troops were suddenly discharged, and their long-standing historical units were entirely disbanded. At the exact same moment, the newly independent nation of India was partitioned. The subcontinent was suddenly divided along the Radcliffe Line, drawing complex new borders that required immediate military protection. The colonial military apparatus had to be split apart and restructured into the armed forces of the new Republic of India. Soldiers and massive amounts of resources were constantly on the move, scrambling to aggressively secure these highly volatile new frontiers. During this transition, a core ethos began to crystallize within the ranks. The first pillar of that ethos is Nam, which translates to name or honor. For the first time, these soldiers were no longer fighting for a foreign empire. They were fighting for their own national identity. The 1947 conflicts didn't offer a grace period for this newly formed army. They were immediately thrust onto the battlefield, forcing them to quickly establish their operational identity and prove their reputation under fire. Behind the front lines, a new independent military leadership structure was formalized. The top ranks, once exclusively held by the British, were now filled by Indian officers commanding their own countrymen. The immense logistical friction of 1947 could have fractured the military. Instead, it served as a crucible. It produced a highly unified force, driven by a fiercely protected sense of Nam. This chart compares the active military personnel of the top global powers today. The Indian Army has grown from that heavily reduced post-war force to 1.4 million active troops. And unlike many countries on this list, India has never imposed a military draft. It operates the largest volunteer standing army in the world. Managing a volunteer force of that size relies on the second pillar of their ethos, Namak, or loyalty to the nation. This loyalty requires absolute team spirit, enforced by a strict internal code where discrimination based on caste or religion is entirely absent from the ranks. That loyalty is tested daily by the geography of India itself. Troops are deployed across some of the most hostile environments on Earth, from arid deserts to dense mountainous jungles and icy, high-altitude glaciers. This operational readiness extends globally. The Indian Army consistently participates in international United Nations peacekeeping missions, sending troops to stabilize conflict zones far beyond their own borders. Namak acts as the operational glue. It is the shared commitment that allows a diverse group of 1.4 million volunteers to function as a single cohesive organism, whether they are patrolling a frozen peak or a foreign continent. Of course, 1 million soldiers mean very little without a rigid organizational structure. The fighting force is divided into highly specialized combat arms. Take the Armored Corps. Historically relying on cavalry horses, this arm now operates main battle tanks, providing massive firepower and vital cover for infantry units during an advance. As warfare evolved, so did the structure. The introduction of aircraft into the battlefield led to the creation of the Army Aviation Corps and the Corps of Army Air Defense, allowing the military to counter vertical threats and observe enemies deep within their own territory. In the information age, armies also rely on the Corps of Signals. They maintain the communication networks that connect soldiers in remote outposts and provide cybersecurity during both peacetime and war. This complex anatomy of specialized units gives the Army the capacity to protect the country's territorial integrity. It takes the abstract concept of soldiers' loyalty and translates it into physical defense. The final pillar is Nishan, meaning the insignia or the flag of the nation. Protecting that flag in the 21st century requires the Army to shift its focus away from purely relying on heavy manpower. To achieve rapid strategic mobility and high-volume firepower, the military is modernizing its mechanized forces, pushing advanced platforms like the Arjun Mark II tank into service. Infantry combat vehicles are also receiving massive upgrades to increase their lethality on the move, integrating the latest fire control systems, twin missile launchers, and thermal imaging sites for commanders. This animated map illustrates a much larger technological leap. The Indian Army is moving toward network-centric warfare by developing a battlefield management system, or BMS. Combined with the futuristic infantry soldier as a system program,
The BMS digitally links armor, artillery, and infantry.
Commanders track the exact location of every unit and weapon in real time, sharing data instantly. It is a massive technological distance to cover. The army that scrambled to secure chaotic borders with mid-century rifles in 1947 is now coordinating thermal imaging, self-propelled guns across an integrated digital network. Yet, beneath all the explosive reactive armor and the real-time data tracking, the foundational element of the force hasn't changed. The individual human soldier remains the core of the military. The vehicles, the weapons, and the digital networks will constantly evolve, but the ethos driving the Indian Army stands entirely intact. They are still anchored by Nam, Namak, and Nishan.